come decorate a volleyball cookie with me. For the volleyball cookie, we're going to start with the edible pen like we did for the soccer ball cookie. But instead of using a template for this one, you're just kind of roughly go into the middle and draw a curved line out. And you're trying to stay in thirds, but it's not the biggest deal if it's not perfect. It's still going to look like a volleyball. And then you're going to do 2 curved lines that follow a similar pattern as that first one you're mimicking, if that at all makes sense, which I feel like I didn't do a great job of explaining that. So hopefully the visual paired with this is helpful. And similar to the soccer ball, you're going to be doing this cookie in, I think, 3 different steps where you want to outline different sections with white. You want to outline and fill different sections with white, and you don't want them to be touching. You're going to want to set aside that, let that icing crust over so you can come back, do more sections. And what this is going to do is allow each section of this volleyball to have the dimension that you see on a volleyball, because they are all sewn together pieces. They're all separate pieces. So that's what we want this cookie to look like. So I've outlined it. I'm coming in, I'm filling it, I'm flooding the center. If I went slower on my flood, I wouldn't even have to come in with my scribe and correct this, but that's just not how I decorate. So I come in with my scribe, I'm evening things out, I'm making sure it comes all the way to the edges, and then I'm going to grab my icing again and do another section that's not going to touch this at all. So there's 2 other places that I'm going to pipe in this first round. See if you can predict where they are, because I don't want these 2 other sections to touch the one that I started with. So there's really only 2 other places I could do this. Well, I guess there's technically more than 2 other places I could do this, but how I'm planning for the future sections I'm going to pipe, there's only 2. If you feel like I could have planned this better, please let me know in the comments, because as I'm watching this, I feel like there's maybe a faster way I could have done this. But again, outline the section, fill it with your flood, use your scribe to even it out if you need to. And then you're going to do one final section on this first round. Again, none of these pieces are touching. That is why we can fill them right now. Because if we were to outline and flood every single one of these, you would have sections that just blend into each other. They wouldn't look separate at all. And by the end, you might have like a little definition. Maybe there's like a little bit of dry time as you went through these, but it wouldn't be as defined as you're going to see at the end that this volleyball has. I really wanted to make this set into a set of all the sports that I have done. And I did do volleyball. I did 3 of the sports that are in this set. And I would have done a water polo ball instead, because that is a sport I played in college. But I didn't want to mix a different color, and water polo balls are yellow. But they look exactly like this. So if you want to do a water polo ball, just mix some yellow icing and follow these same exact directions, because they have the same pattern on water polo balls that they do on volleyballs. So this crusted over a little bit. You can see it's not as glossy, the icing that is on the cookie. So now we're going to come do another section. So these can touch the previous sections we did. This is very similar to how we decorate the soccer ball in this sports set as well. We're doing it in stages, so we allow previous sections to crust over so they can keep their dimension as we add more icing to this cookie. And again, if you have patience when you are filling your outlines, you probably will not need to come in with your scribe. I know there are plenty of cookiers who hate having to pull their scribes out because you gotta clean them off. You're just setting your piping bag down. I am not that person. I'm happy to pull my scribe out. Totally a personal preference. So as we are decorating again, we don't want fresh sections of icing, so the ones that are really glossy, and you can see the comparison kind of looking in the middle of your screen. The last section I just did compared to the line above it or the line to the left of it, they're just slightly more matte than the really glossy one we have in the middle. So that's the difference you're looking for. It doesn't need to be fully dry. It just needs to be, again, what's called crusted over in cookie decorating. And so I'm coming in and doing 3 more sections on this round, and then the last round will leave us with 3 sections left to fill in as well. And you just want to make sure that none of your sections are touching other fresh icing. And again, similar to the soccer ball, you're outlining the full section. And I just find this helps you get really crisp lines in between. So you can, there are definitely some people who would just say, oh, you just need to line the top and the bottom of this section. You don't need to do the sides because it's surrounded by 2 other decorated pieces already. And you can do that. You can play around with it, see what you like. I find that I just don't have as clean an edge when I do it that way, and so I prefer to outline the section fully. I'm gonna grab my scribe, make sure that's evened out, make sure it's everywhere I want it to go, and then I'm gonna set this cookie aside, let it dry a little bit, move on to my other volleyball cookies, maybe move on to some other cookies in this sports set, and then I'll come back to it like I did right now when those have crusted over so I can finish with the last 3 sections. And you're going to want to outline those sections, every single piece, and then fill it in with the same icing. One thing I debated with this cookie is if I wanted to have black outlines, maybe outline the whole thing with black first and then come in with the white, but I ultimately decided that wouldn't look right. That would look more true for a water polo ball than it would for a volleyball. Volleyballs don't really have those hard lines on them like a water polo ball does. I also debated doing that on the basketball, but the basketball in this set I thought looked better with the black put on after it had crusted over a little bit, and those black lines kind of sink down into it, and it just worked out really well. If you haven't looked at the basketball yet, look at it. It's my favorite in this set. It just looks so perfectly well done. So we have 2 more sections to decorate, and again, we're outlining. These are all sections that aren't being piped directly next to other sections that were freshly piped. These are sections that have dried a little bit. You can see the difference in what the icing consistency looks like. They're holding their shape, the previous ones that we piped and we set aside. So they're not blending with the new icing we're putting onto the cookie. And you can see the difference in how glossy the new icing is compared to just a little bit of gloss on the ones that have crusted over, have gone a little bit more matte. And coming in with the scribe to even things out, to make sure I get a little sharper, crisper corner on the side, and making sure I'm not going to overflow the edge. If I feel like my icing is making its way to overflowing the edge, I'll take my scribe and just push the icing towards the center. So just kind of trying to redirect it to the choice I want it to make. It doesn't always work, but a lot of the times it works. And we're going to fill in this very final section of our volleyball, filling it in. And I definitely am like, yes, I'm almost done. I'm feeling impatient because this is how I am when I decorate cookies. Coming in with my scribe one final time, evening everything out. And that leaves us with our wonderful volleyball. It's part of the sports cookie set. Download the guide below. Try it out. Let me know how it goes.